These pictures of Duluth's Central Hillside neighborhood were taken nearly 20 years ago. At that time, the neighborhood was a battleground in President Lyndon Johnson's war on poverty.
This is Duluth's model neighborhood, now showing the first signs of renovation. A renewal that many persons thought they would never see in this area. The renewal comes not only for physical structures, but also in the thinking of the residents themselves. Those who have taken the time to explore the possibilities of the program have come away with a new look at what their area can become. Truly a model neighborhood.
In many ways, time has stood still since Channel 3 made this documentary. Kids still play in the snow on winter days that are just as cold now as they were then. And amidst all the fun and frolic stands a neighborhood that faces the problems of poverty and inner-city urban decay. Even though the government spent millions of dollars on the Model City project, those who were involved say Uncle Sam didn't spend enough.
I think there's a partial success. In this process, you cannot achieve something on a basis of pushing it hard. You have to let it grow. And before maybe the whole growth cycle was completed, our support ran out. We had a different administration in Washington. The money's dried up.
We're more inclined to engage in a war on poverty that lasts for 4 or 5 years and then forget it. We don't have any ongoing comprehensive commitment to urban problems.
Tomorrow night, we'll talk to some people about what's being done to fix up the neighborhood now. And we'll find out why it's not a good idea to make things look too good too fast. John Schottel, Channel 3 News.
When you drive by, it just looks like a maze of houses and of streets full of, old cars. But if you stop and look and drive by slowly some of these streets and look at the houses, look at the architecture, it's beautiful. It really is. It's a jewel that's, hidden under a basket.
You could say that's the Central Hillside in a nutshell. One look towards the lake will tell you why a growing number of people are fixing up older houses. But it's a trend community leaders are keeping a close eye on.
I think that the challenge is that we're seeing kind of a slow gentrification process in the Central Hillside. The challenge is to not let that speed up like it has in other cities.
When it has been done in other cities, it tends to be the urban renewal, urban removal kind of program that replaces low-income housing with high-income housing and destroys neighborhoods rather than preserves them.
Yet on the other hand, that slow fix-up process may be a little too slow. Every day the city has to knock down more and more houses that have been neglected to the point where they're no longer safe to live in. Most houses that are being remodeled are within 2 blocks of Skyline Drive. Below that, it's all downhill.
What's it going to be like here 10 years from now?
I dare say it probably won't be that much different than what it is today.
Tomorrow night, we'll talk about how substandard housing and poverty go together. John Schottel, Channel 3 News. These volunteers are working for a food shelf which is run by the Central Hillside United Ministry. The organization of 12 churches runs programs like this one to help people through hard times. But now the helpers are having hardships of their own. The number of people who go to Chum for a 5-day emergency food supply each month has skyrocketed from 600 to over 1,000.
For the first time, I really beginning to experience a crisis here at the food shelf. The last 2 months we have spent more money than we've seen come in, and if that happens for the next couple months, we will definitely have serious problems here and not be able to support the number of people who are in need of emergency food.
Although there are hungry people in every part of Minnesota, Duluth's Central Hillside is one of those areas where the percentages are higher. When you ask why, the answer leads you back to the same problem.
The lower cost housing would be the primary reason that people with limited incomes end up living in the Central Hillside.
I see a lot of places that, you pay high rent for, and plus the deposits, and, it just ridiculous, the rent for the housing that you get around here.
Over 30% of the hillside's population is transient, looking for a new job or trying to find an apartment where the heat is paid in the winter. It will take more and better jobs to break that cycle.
Although people may see new construction in the area and jobs advertised in the paper, those aren't the kinds of opportunities that the people who we serve can compete for and successfully get a job with.
Some experts say urban decay in neighborhoods like the hillside can act as a warning sign, telling us our society still hasn't dealt with many of its problems. John Schottel, Channel 3 News. These kids attend the most controversial grade school in Duluth, Nettleton Elementary on the Central Hillside. The State Board of Education has ruled that the percentage of minority kids here is too high. The school is segregated. But staff members say they've had a hard time calling the race issue in their school a problem.
The community itself is a very, very accommodating community. They accept that people are different. You know, they have different ethnic backgrounds, they have cultural backgrounds, they've got economic backgrounds, they've got all kinds of differences. And that does not seem to be as troublesome to the folks here as it is in some other schools.
Nettleton Principal Pete Bergman says his school isn't perfect, but he's not alone in trying to change that. Even though up to 40% of the school's students will either move in or out of the Nettleton neighborhood during a given school year, there is also an element of stability.
On the other hand, we have a very strong group of parents who come here because they want to be here. They like the Central Hillside for whatever the reason. And we have families that move in, plan to stay, and develop their roots here in the Central Hillside neighborhood.
Experts say the people who stay here make the hillside unique. And even though the area may have its problems, it also has its assets.
But our Central Hillside, we've got good people, generally good people, and we don't have those problems they have in other cities of our size or larger, where they have so-called core areas in the fringe of the downtown.
Even though people may be one of the tools necessary for solving the hillside's problems, other resources are shrinking. We'll take a look at that issue tomorrow. I'm John Schottel for Channel 3 News. Since the Model City program began in the late 60s, nearly $30 million have been spent on programs affecting the Central Hillside neighborhood. In some areas, little progress is evident. In others, social reform has taken hold. In preparing this report, everyone we've talked to has agreed that a long-term solution is needed to solve the problems that remain.
By providing people a 5-day food supply, emergency food supply at the food shelf, we're clearly not solving any permanent problem in terms of people not having enough income to adequately feed their families. We're responding to a short-term need.
One program that's helped neighborhoods like the Hillside for the past 15 years has been the Community Development Block Grant Program. The so-called CD dollars are intended to upgrade low-income neighborhoods, but there are few federal guidelines stating how this should be done. In the past few years, Duluth has been channeling more and more of these dollars into economic development projects in an attempt to create jobs and improve the economy. A classic example, the Lake Superior Paper Mill.
When you take the amount that they have to deal with right now, you have $1.5 million going to the paper plant. You have another $500,000 that must go into housing programs through the HRA. It doesn't leave them much to spend on other programs in any of the low-income neighborhoods.
To make up for using CD funds, LSPI has agreed to draw 51% of its workforce from low-income neighborhoods. Critics wonder if the payoff is big enough, while the mayor's office says the city has no choice.
Everyone in the neighborhood has a sneaky feeling that that's not going to happen. And the reason it's not going to happen is because it's such a high-tech situation. And that type of a job situation, you can't use a low and moderate income person unless, you know, they're an unemployed computer operator or, you know, technician or paper technician of some sort. No, I don't approve of the use for economic development.
When the paper plant is complete, you'll have 600 direct jobs. And according to the University of Minnesota, Duluth, you'll have another 2,000 spin-off jobs. You'll have $400 million worth of new tax base. You will have the overall perception of a community on the move. As you look around, you can see evidence of that already. You tell me, what's the payback on $3 million?
Federal officials say there's nothing wrong with using CD money to create jobs, but the question of who will benefit can only be answered by time. John Schottel, Channel 3 News.
It's no secret that women in Duluth continue to be terrorized by sexual assaults and that wife-beating continues to be a major problem. Organizers of Brother Peace say it's time to end the age-old idea that violence is a justified method of gaining power over women. And in order to do that, men must first take control of the violence within themselves.
We do have another way of living our lives through peace and through togetherness and through sharing that something that men know very little of and have not experienced that much of. We can overcome a violent social structure.
It is something that Indian people have talked about for a long time, to come together and to be supportive of one another and do this in harmony.
Brother Peace believes that men's violence against women is related to men's violence against men. That violence often manifests itself through racism and war.
I think that confronting the violence that comes from within and a desire to be in something that we may be involved with that may have some things in store for us that we're just not aware of. And if people could see the horrors of war, could see the effects of war, that they'd start to question that violence that's within them.
A candlelight vigil for the victims of violence and a peace march are planned for this weekend in Duluth. If you'd like to attend, plan to be at the Portland Square at 7:30 Saturday night. Michelle Lee, Channel 3 News.
Today's ribbon cutting marked the beginning of a new business in Hermantown, a business that's out of this world. Starlight Satellite Systems Incorporated opened its doors. It's the 19th business to open in Hermantown this year.
Favorite expression is, this is fantastic. I'm glad they're coming to Hermantown. Everything comes to Hermantown puts a smile on my face, I can assure you that.
Starlight Satellite Systems, this is Bob.
Bob Reichert started his satellite business in Duluth more than 2 years ago. The 48-year-old didn't realize his company would grow so much. He has gone from 4 employees when he first opened his business to 10 employees now.
I guess we always dream, but I had no idea expectation that we'd be here now.
Reichert says he moved his company from Duluth to Hermantown because he needed a bigger place to do business and because most of his customers live in rural areas.
They're the folks who don't have access to cable. And, without that access, there are over 100 channels available off of the satellite. And it gives them better, equal, or even much better television than the cable subscribers.
Satellite dish companies in the Northland are few and far between. That lack of competition is one reason why Reichert says he thinks his operation will grow even more, and the expansion will fire his business into orbit. Linda Hammond, Channel 3 News.
The U.S. Steel plant in Morgan Park was one of a handful of industrial companies that used to dump its untreated waste products into the St. Louis River. That was before such dumping was regulated. Now, years later, those chemicals can still be detected in the water.
Heavy metals, PCBs, sludges of all kinds, coal tar products, just a wide variety of those goodies.
Those goodies are hazardous to people and to the aquatic life abundant in the water. The MPCA has issued advisories against eating some fish from the river. Although most untreated dumping has stopped, the legacy of the chemicals will remain.
By and large, most of those chemicals have a long half-life, and they are very slow to biologically degrade.
Plans are underway to clean up the worst parts of the river. That involves removing the underwater silt or covering it with sand. The effort will take years and millions of dollars. As far as Pigors is concerned, the lesson to be learned is this.
We have to be eternally vigilant and see that the regulatory agencies, like our agency and others, continue to do their job, and that they continually monitor and clean up these areas where we know there is contamination, and then prevent anything new from coming into the system.
Kurt Ludlow, Channel 3 News.
Tonight, Ricky Kiger is behind bars at the Ramsey County Jail Annex, where he was taken several hours ago by Maplewood police. Officers transferred him there from the Maplewood Department, where sources say he cooperated with investigators. Police think Kiger killed Morna Brennan at his Maplewood apartment. It's located about a mile from the spot where police found their first evidence in the murder. The evidence includes these blood-stained blue drapes. Tonight, a blanket hangs in Kiger's apartment window where neighbors say blue curtains used to be. Residents here describe Kiger as a loner and say they are shocked to learn of his arrest.
I always think of him as a spooky person, you know, because he, you know, when I talk to him out in the pool and stuff, you know, when you talk, you try to learn about each other. He never really, you know, lets you know him and stuff.
He told Ronnie that he wanted to move out because of all the murders that have been going on. And Ronnie told me that when he came in the house. He goes, "Did you know all the murders that have been going on besides that girl?" And I said, "No, I hadn't heard about it."
Brennan disappeared November 8th from this singles bar in Maplewood, a place Kiger often visited on ladies' night and which has seen a big drop in business since she was killed.
My reaction was, thank God they caught this guy, and I hope he's the guy. That's basically all we've heard, that they had somebody, and I can't wait to see what this person looks like.
Kiger worked at this St. Paul Marble Company. It's unclear how long he was employed there, but neighbors say he recently took time off from work, saying he'd injured his hand on the job. Criminal charges are expected to be filed here in Ramsey County against the Maplewood man either tomorrow or Thursday. Caroline Lowe, WCCO Television News, reporting.
Company officials began a meeting with reporters today by unveiling a new logo. Jazzing up their company image is just part of a plan that should have the 90-year-old Duluth meat packer out of bankruptcy by Easter. But even though sales have nearly doubled since August, Elliott's president Tom Bailey says he's still cautious.
I was talking to a supplier the other day, and he asked me how things were going, and I told him I thought I could see the light at the end of the tunnel, and he says, double check and make sure it's not the train coming.
Elliott's employs 45 people, and Bailey says the ability of his company to come back after filing Chapter 11 is good for everyone involved.
Once you get a company like this doing business outside this area, outside the Arrowhead area, you encourage other businesses to come into town. If we can make a success of this, it's going to say, hey, Duluth isn't such a bad place to do business after all.
It was hard to see the clouds of bankruptcy as officials guided tours around the facility today. Rays of optimism were much more evident. John Schottel, Channel 3 News.
This house was built in 1892 by Oliver Trapp Aiken, who's considered one of the finest architects in Duluth history. Later, it became the home of the famous Congdon family, and eventually it was divided up into 9 separate apartments. Today, the red stone building on East Superior Street is undergoing yet another change.
It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. There are a number of obstacles.
One obstacle to undertaking such a project is financing. Klotsky will spend a great deal of time and money to make sure that, among other things, the walls get patched, and the paint that now clings on the walls will be removed just like it has on the doors.
There are a lot of great old buildings in Duluth that lend themselves to offices, but many of them are in residential zones versus commercial zones. And
by stepping across this property line, I move from a residential zone to a commercial one. The owner of the house behind me is trying to do today precisely what Howard Klotsky did 7.5 years ago. When Klotsky wanted to move his business into its current location, he had to wait 9 months to get this old house registered under a commercial zone instead of a residential one. Some feel this red tape is hindering renovation of old buildings in Duluth, but there are those who think it's worth it.
When it came time to do this, because we just outgrew our present facility, we talked about it at length at the office, and everybody felt that they would rather do something like this versus conventional space.
Sam Shane, Channel 3 News.
At 3 minutes past 3 o'clock, Dean Crick walked out of the 7-Eleven store he managed for 7 years unemployed. The Wymedac Corporation, which owns the store, fired Crick for refusing to sell pornographic magazines.
I'm not concerned about my job. The important issue that we're facing today is, are we going to have a community that's going to be safe for the women and children of our community to be able to walk the streets free without having fear of rape and whatnot?
That stand has made Crick a folk hero among anti-pornography forces. Several hundred people, armed with signs of protest, gathered across the street from the store.
I think that born-again Christians should take their stand against pornography and other things that's not of God.
We think it's very important for children to understand the destructive influences in our society, and we want them to stand strong with us for what's healthy for people.
I don't agree either way. I mean, I'm kind of mixed up. You know, I understand what Dean's doing. I understand what 7-Eleven is doing.
Crick's firing has caught the attention of the National Federation for Decency, which intends to keep pressure on Wymedac to pull the magazines in its stores.
I think it's tragic, and I think it's going to come back to hurt 7-Eleven economically.
Organizers of the rally are now planning a massive boycott against 7-Elevens owned by Wymedac. They say they want to hurt the company economically to show that the people's views here are as important as the profits Wymedac takes in. In Superior, Kurt Ludlow, Channel 3 News.
The Weisberg Swim Therapy Program began in 1970, with Mrs. Norrie Moody being one of the forerunners in the program. It began as a therapy program for trainable and orthopedic students. The entire Weisberg School went to swim at senior, but within the last 10 years, only some of the multiply handicapped and trainable retarded students swim.
Out of my 13 students, I now have 8 students who can swim within the deep water and have passed water safety and are very comfortable with the water and someday might save their own life.
The students at Weisberg really enjoy working with the high schoolers.
It's very, very great for me because when I started swimming, it was very hard for me to swim. Now I've been taught how to swim.
I've met a lot of senior high students throughout the years, and I always like to get to meet people.
Besides being a great benefit for the Weisberg students, this is also a great benefit for the high school students. We are now more aware of the special needs of some people, as you will soon see. This program has sparked interest in the Superior students, helping them to decide whether they wish to pursue a career in the field of mentally disabled. 2 years ago, Jenny Hefner, a 21-year-old Down syndrome student, participated in our annual water show. Obviously, the Weisberg program is a big success. Carla Moen, Channel 3 News.
Växjö is a picturesque town nestled in the forests of southwestern Sweden. It has a tradition of fine glass blowing that spans several centuries. That tradition is still a very big deal today. It is surrounded by lakes, and fanatic tennis fans will recognize it as the home of Mats Wilander. But those who support the sister city proposal will tell you that Swedish immigration to the United States is probably the strongest bond between the two cities. In Växjö, there is a museum dedicated to relatives who have left for the promise of a new world.
There are the old ties of the homeland from the Swedish immigrants that live in this region. In our own cultural heritage, it's good to find your roots, and I think some of that will happen.
Student exchanges between the two towns have already taken place, and experts in the wood products industry hope they can trade some shop talk. The hope is that the conversation will lead to a meaningful friendship.
We hopefully will also get to know, to see them in their own setting and respect their dignity and their lives, and it may be a great peacemaker when we get to know people on a person-to-person basis.
John Schottel, Channel 3 News.
Some Christmas shoppers and store clerks say the recent media blitz to get the public to buy American-made products has had quite an impact.
And sometimes if they're not made in USA, they will not even look at the item.
Others say with Christmas gift-giving at a premium, finding the product is more important than where it was made.
I think there is a segment of the population that does specifically look for American-made garments, although at this time of the year it seems to be less of a priority for people, especially as they're shopping for Christmas and gifts, and the item itself seems to be more important than where it's made.
Some store owners say the only way to keep product prices down is by buying foreign goods, but labor union officials say the only way to keep Americans working is to buy American-made goods.
Number one is to demand American-made products in their favorite stores. Everybody's got stores in their community that they go to on a regular basis, and if they go in there and make it a point to the clerk or make it a point to the manager that they want American, that message will get through.
Union officials say the number of Americans out of work just because of too many imports in the textile industry is staggering. Over 12 million people have lost their jobs. Officials hope that Americans will start becoming more aware of what they buy, starting with this year's holiday shopping. In Superior, Katie O'Keefe, Channel 3 News.
It's an ongoing problem to get people who have problems with basic skills to admit to that problem. They're used to coping, they're used to hiding that problem, and in many cases even their immediate families don't know.
Recent statistics show that 1 in 5 Minnesotans is functionally illiterate. Of those 800,000, nearly 50,000 are from the Arrowhead region. Those alarming figures prompted a 1984 task force to form the Minnesota Adult Literacy Campaign.
If you look at the Arrowhead region, about 21% of the people in this area have not completed high school, and that's very typical across the entire state.
Today at a seminar on illiteracy, Pearson and other speakers told their audience that not being able to read or write has more than just social implications.
Economically, we need to look at the issue of whether or not people have basic skills for jobs and productivity.
Pearson believes the educational system is not to blame. He says the fact that 85% of illiterate people in Minnesota haven't graduated from high school indicates that our schools are doing their job well.
I think it's really misleading to tell people that the problem is with the schools. I think schools are doing an excellent job, and they're constantly addressing the issue of student competencies.
Today, nearly 50,000 students are enrolled in literacy programs across the state. One of the goals of the MALC is to quadruple that number in the next 4 years, bringing the number of adult learners across Minnesota to 200,000 by 1990. In Virginia, Sam Shane, Channel 3 News.
Vices. You don't need them. In other words, heavy metal need not promote drugs, drinking, and so forth. Since Cairo banded together in 1980, they have changed their style. They found Christ.
We were helping kids realize that partying is fun because we were doing it, and our friends were slowly getting into car accidents from drinking and driving. Getting high, going out and doing drugs and stuff. Kids were doing it just because we were.
But not anymore. Every style of music has its fans. Heavy metal happens to appeal to a lot of young people. But the message being sent out by Cairo is different from the message of the Ozzy Osbournes and Motley Crues.
We've been supplied with something else to keep something that we love. We didn't like the lyrics that were being spoken, but we lived by them. But it was the music is why we were listening to it. So the music is still there, except the lyrics are different.
They firmly believe that the lyrics promoting vices influence young people and themselves have been through the gamut of drinking and drugs. All four have also suffered the loss of friends from those abuses. The concert this Friday at the North Shore Theater begins at 7 p.m. Admission is $3 in advance and $4 at the door. The band XYZ will also play. Since music is like breathing, it is an influence in all of our lives, the four young men with Christian message and heavy metal music hope more positive words will help rather than hurt those who come to enjoy. Debbie Nerby for Channel 3 News.
No matter what plan of attack university officials take, the solution to their budget problem is going to be a combination of asking the state for money, reducing enrollment, and raising tuition.
The biennial budget that the board has approved calls for $72 million additional and a rather steep increase in student tuition and a slight reduction in students. for the entire system.
Now that the UW system has found a potential solution to their $88 million problem, the question is, why do they have such an expensive budget problem in the first place? University officials say it's because the UW system handles more students than most state school systems do.
There's a couple of reasons for that. One is that it is the tradition of Wisconsin that there be accessibility to higher education in the state. Secondly, we don't have a big amount of private colleges and universities in the state.
Some students are protesting the proposed enrollment reduction, but university officials emphasize that the reduction will not affect students currently enrolled at the university.
The pink slip doesn't mean that they're going to close them out and send them home. That the enrollment management program, which is talked about, is dealing with the new admissions coming in, not to the people that are in place right now.
University officials say that their budget requests are fair, but fair to them is going to mean about a $200 a year tuition increase to the average UWS student if this budget passes. In Superior, KDLH Channel 3 News.
They came from the Soviet Union, and they came from West Germany. They came from Austria, Switzerland, Norway, and Japan. All of them came to speed down a jump and soar through the air in Ely, Minnesota. And no matter how graceful these World Cup skiers glide through the air, their monetary value here could mean smooth sailing for the Ely economy.
The immediate impact for Ely is economics. They're going to be spending money in Ely.
Attracting tourists and their money is something Ely does very well in the summer months. Boating, camping, and canoeing head the list of activities in the Northland. Officials hope today's international ski jumping event will help Ely become a winter wonderland.
It's going to put us on the map as far as an area that can handle people year-round.
In the future, Ely hopes to attract more skiers and winter events to the area. If that happens, Mayor Baltich believes this town will also attract first-rate dining and lodging facilities. Store owners here on Sheridan Street say that business was just slightly better today, but Mayor Baltich and other community leaders hope that today's World Cup event is the first step in making Ely a strong winter attraction. In Ely, Sam Shane, Channel 3 News. Today, Denfeld marketing teacher Earl Brown led class discussion about the needs we all have in life. A need he didn't mention in class is the need businesses in the west end of Duluth have for customers.
We find that most people do go to the mall, up to the Miller Hill Mall, and do a lot of shopping in Minneapolis and outside of this part of the community.
So to help sway potential customers from local shopping areas such as the Miller Hill Mall and the downtown area, the Denfeld DECA organization came up with an idea.
Us as a class, we promoted November 28th through December 5th, the DECA Free Enterprise Week.
Free Enterprise Week was not only designed to promote business in the west end of Duluth, but to educate students about the laissez-faire economic system in the United States. But Brown and his students hope their project will give Denfeld a little recognition, too.
And this project hopefully will place either first or second among many other schools that will be doing a similar type of project.
No one from Duluth has ever represented, a Minnesota chapter from Duluth, so this will be a first time.
How are your chances?
Real good.
Sam Shane, Channel 3 News.
Oh, real excited. No one from Duluth has ever represented, a Minnesota.
Dean Crick and his wife Diane have lived in the Northland 10 years, and they love it, but they may have to leave the area to find work. Dean Crick managed the 7-Eleven store at Hammond and Belknap in Superior 7 years, but he was fired Monday because he refused to sell pornographic magazines. Yesterday, his wife Diane, who also worked for 7-Eleven, resigned to protest her husband's firing. At this point, neither is sure what type of work, if any, they'll find in this area.
I have managed convenience stores even before I went to work for 7-Eleven, and the convenience store business is what I really know and like. I enjoy that very much. I loved the 7 years that I worked at my store and the customers and the many friends that I made there. So I guess if I had to pick a career, that would probably be it.
I don't know what I do or what I'll do. Go back to school. I have a business in my home. but it only lasts 4 months out of the year.
The Cricks now have no income, but they do have bills. Most of them center around their adopted son, Adam. He is 2 years old and has cerebral palsy. Adam goes to a therapist 3 times a week. In a year, the bills amount to between $12,000 and $15,000. Previously, their insurance through Wymedac, the company that owns 7-Eleven, paid for all Adam's bills. But now, the Cricks are on their own.
I will have to call a therapist and tell him that he will not be there on Friday. You know, we'd have to pay the bill. We'd have to pay the bills if we wanted him to continue physical therapy.
Despite the anticipated hardship, Dean and Diane say they know their decision to leave the 7-Eleven Corporation was the right one, and they have faith all will work out in the end. In Esco, Lisa Molaski, Channel 3 News.
Who appointed you censor? Are you the censor of our morality if I wish to buy Playboy, or if David does, or Randy does, or if I decide not to and aren't offended by having it in your store?
Right, we don't believe, and what we are trying to do is we are just telling people that if you find the values in these kinds of magazines repugnant, if you find them inconsistent with your own values, then you should shop in accordance with your own conscience. And we are encouraging people to do just that and to exercise their right of free speech and to do as they choose and shop where they will.
Randy, what about that old theory, though? Today it's Playboy, tomorrow it's Penthouse, and then comes Hustler, and then we're talking about man-boy love. Isn't there something to that, perhaps?
So what? I mean, it seems to me that one of the fundamental tenets of a democratic society is you permit the broadest possible range of ideas and publications to be out there for the public to view. And you trust the basic wisdom and intelligence of the members of the public to decide what they want to buy and what they want to purchase and what they don't want to purchase. Right now, you can go to a library and buy and borrow Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler that advocates the extermination of Jews by force and violence. Not very long ago, one of the television stations showed Birth of a Nation, one of the most racist films ever made. And we permit these to be out there because we essentially trust the wisdom and intelligence of the public to select those things that they like and to reject the things they don't like. And I think it's an insult to the intelligence and integrity of the public to say that the public can't be trusted to read Playboy and watch Deep Throat and make the same choice.
What's wrong with what he's saying, Dean?
I believe that I am recommending that people do just that, to inform themselves.
But aren't you doing more than that in this crusade? There were 200 to 300 people waiting outside. Right. They knew you were going to be fired. The spotlight was on. You called news conferences. Your wife's resignation was duly noted in the papers. Aren't you doing just what he said? Aren't you doing censorship through pressure? Aren't you trying to change what all of us have access to?
Basically, we believe that if what Randy talks about is true and what if the mainstream of American people really wants that kind of thing, perhaps that's fine. But I believe that the overall issue of pornography and the hardcore pornography that I believe Randy represents is a sinister danger, and that to say that there's no damage in these kinds of things does not square up with the evidence.
When the lights are gone and the cameras go away and all the reporters go, what are you and your family going to do? How are you going to live?
Well, we're just trusting that there will be people of good conscience who will, help to find us a job and to meet our needs. And we're just very confident that right now the mission that we are on is to help Americans realize that they are not powerless in the face of this pornographic plague which is facing our nation, and that each person, all of us standing together who believe as we do, can make a difference, and the stand that we are taking is a stand for decency. We want our communities to be safer places for our women and children to live.
We have a matter of seconds. Last word, Randy?
All right. Well, I don't think that those people have a monopoly on the concept of decency. Many of those people promote a book which touts as the epitome of good a God who, for instance, murdered the entire population of the world by a flood, other than a few people on an ark, and they tout that as a great good. And to me, that is far more harmful than anything in Playboy or Hustler.
Randy, on that note, wow. Well, maybe we ought to have you back. Thank you very much to both of you.
Dean Crick walked out of his 7-Eleven store Monday to the cheers of hundreds of supporters. His refusal to sell adult magazines and lose his job because of it has won praise from many people. Today, the assistant store manager was also fired for the same reason.
More important for me to have a clear conscience than to have a job. I have made the decision for which I am prepared to accept the economic consequences.
Crick and Grandstrom agree adult magazines degrade women and children. And Crick's wife, Diane, an auditor at the Wymedac Corporation, which owns the store, resigned to show her support for her husband. The resignation coming after the Cricks felt they could financially handle the medical bills for their son, Adam, who has cerebral palsy.
We decided that it would take time to adjust our economic situation, and that with Dean being unemployed, we could not afford to continue to pay for the medical bills, and that I did anticipate resigning once we got things squared away.
Tonight, officials with Wymedac are in Superior and have spent time at the store. They've refused comment. Tomorrow, the Cricks and Grandstrom will begin looking for work, all the while insisting that a boycott of Wymedac 7-Eleven should continue until adult magazines are off the shelves.
So it'll take a little time before it's really noticeable. There's a slim possibility we might have some availability.
The pandemonium began about 1 this afternoon. A panda bear rounded up all the kindergarten through 3rd graders at Chester Park Elementary School for a special assembly. They got together to celebrate the panda and what it stands for. Today's celebration was a culmination of a week's worth of learning and fun.
The role that I played in this during this week has been to go around to the different classes and to talk about the giant panda and its different facets.
Today the kids sang songs and also watched a group of 6th graders put on a couple skits. Finally, Superintendent Elliot Mosier presented the panda with a check worth about $150. The money was raised by students and teachers who sold panda pins, and it will go to the care of giant pandas at the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. Almost every student at the school got into the spirit of the day by wearing black and white. And when asked why they were having such a good time,
because it's Panda Day and I like to see pandas. It's because it's a fun day. Because you do good things and fun things.
I think it's pretty neat. Why? Because I really like animals, and it's better than last year when we had to do it about a person. I thought it was really neat because I love animals, and I really like to see kids learning about them because they're endangered and they really need a lot of help.
Lisa Molosky, Channel 3 News.
It looked like any other Christmas party. There was food and decorations and even a football game on the tube. But the guests at this party weren't here to fill their bellies. They spent the day making sure others have food during the holiday season. Actually, they spent the day making bread, over 200 loaves worth. All of it will go to the Duluth Emergency Food Shell.
It means that to other people in Duluth that there's someone that cares about them. It means that someone is making a special effort for them at this holiday season. It also means that we have bread for about a week that we wouldn't normally have.
The owners of this bakery didn't want us to show their faces. They insisted today's bread bake was for the needy, not their notoriety. But one owner did agree to tell us about their get-together.
Well, we wanted to make a party out of it, so we called all our friends and asked those that could come on a Sunday to come on down and bake bread with us. There was only 2 professional bakers here out of all these people, and the rest of us just pitched in and did what we could. And in between loaves of bread, we decorated the bakery and ate lunch and joked around and had fun.
A little fun mixed with a lot of work. First the bread was baked, then it was sliced and bagged. then stacked and packed. This is the first year this bakery has baked bread for the poor, but owners say it's not the last. And next year, Christmas time?
Oh, definitely. This has been fun. Unless they can't use the bread. That would be great if they didn't need it, wouldn't it?
Loading the bread into the van is the next to last step in this Christmas donation project. The last step is to take this bread to the food shelf where it will feed needy families. Sam Shane, Channel 3 News.
The reason we're trying to get in contact with you is we just like to offer you an opportunity to pick up on our special holiday ham we're making available this year between Thanksgiving and New Year's, and we're not making this available in any retail store.
It may sound like just another sales pitch on the telephone, but it's the beginning of a brand new industry in Duluth, the business of telemarketing.
You can reach hundreds of people a week, all across the country. Okay, that's what we do.
In this case, Datum Incorporated is selling hams made by Duluth's Elliott Meats Company. The intended buyers are businesses all over the country who are looking for Christmas gifts for employees and clients. By using long-distance calling, the company is able to sell products and research new markets all over the nation.
Cannot afford to go out and drive around the country anymore and go face-to-face to everybody you want to see. And there's products that are in this area that need to be out in California, they need to be in Washington, they need to be in Florida, they need to be all over the country. And we can do that for somebody here.
Right now, Datum has 15 clients and about a dozen employees. And even though there are other companies in Duluth who use the phone for selling things, officials here say they're the first full-blown telemarketing firm in the Twin Ports. And they expect their business to expand. John Schottel, Channel 3 News.
7 people died when the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded. The nation mourned. But that very day, and each day before and after that, 70 people died due to drunk drivers. Those are staggering numbers the Mothers Against Drunk Driving organization says you ignore. At the Capitol in St. Paul, these grief-stricken people couldn't ignore the numbers. They've lost relatives to drunk drivers and held a vigil to remember.
It's important because, for the most part, they're only statistics.
A public with an "it can't happen to me" attitude, and judges and lawmakers who fail to respond to cries for tougher drunk driving laws. That, says MAD, is part of the problem.
The legislators, they're not going to change the laws until they really feel the public is really behind them.
Solving the problem can only begin once people realize that drunk driving is a crime, Wheeler says, and put a value on the life that's taken.
If they're alcoholic, then they have to go through treatment, but they also have to remember that alcoholism may be a disease, but drunk driving is a crime. So there also has to be some kind of punishment.
A vigil for victims of drunk drivers will be held tonight in Duluth at 7:30 at the First United Methodist Church. Kurt Ludlow, Channel 3 News.
At 9 a.m., they gathered at the Duluth Arena. With them, they brought Christmas cheer and lofty goals.
I expect that we will collect more today than ever before.
What Don Bai and some 300 volunteers expect to collect more of is food and money. That's what Project Share is all about, taking from the rich and giving to the poor. And the takers were well aware of the sub-zero temperatures.
But I don't care. It's fun. Yeah.
It's fun?
Yeah.
The cold doesn't bother you at all?
No.
When the food collectors left the arena, not one box was full. When they pulled up to semis placed across the city, it was a different story.
This year I've noticed an additional cash donations, which is nice.
Loading and unloading, sorting and weighing. It all seemed so busy and so confusing. Some didn't know which way to turn.
It's been phenomenal today. We put more people on the street today, I think, than we ever did before. When I was handing out assignments this morning, I literally ran out of assignments to give.
The final destination for this food is the Duluth food shelves. For now, it will be stacked in a warehouse until it's needed. Most of the food here in the Lighthouse warehouse will be gone in a month. Until then, the needy of northern Minnesota will reap the benefits of some 300 volunteers from Project Share. Sam Shane, Channel 3 News.
Steve Chadwick has been number 2 in command at Duluth CAP for nearly 6 years. And even though CAP employees have openly criticized the program's former director and her management practices, Chadwick says the agency's future looks good.
The basic problem I see
was that issues weren't being communicated clearly, and that I think I and the board are making some efforts to try to improve that.
Most of the charges leveled against the agency centered on how its employees use their time. Workers said they found it hard to keep up with complex state and federal regulations, and they were assigned housekeeping duties during the agency's busiest time of the year. But Chadwick says CAP has always been on top of its job. Recently, a federal auditor said CAP's weatherization program is probably one of the best in the Midwest. What really worries Chadwick is his budget. He wonders if state and federal lawmakers will keep on supporting energy assistance programs.
The biggest uncertainty is whether there's going to be funding to continue the programs. It's somewhat stabilized over the last 2 years, although there's continued assaults on those funds.
Last year, Duluth CAP served 500 fewer people than it did the year before, and officials say no matter how well their books are kept, it won't be accountants that determine their future. It will be lawmakers. John Schottel, Channel 3 News. The cost of filling a tank of heating oil could be as much as 12 cents a gallon cheaper for people on energy assistance programs. But officials with the Duluth Community Action Program say that can only happen if they do the buying. CAP would take energy assistance grants and use the money to buy bulk quantities of heating oil on the open market. The 12% savings would be a big help to people on energy assistance.
It's going to mean their energy assistance dollars would go further, and people who wouldn't be able to necessarily make it through a winter with their energy assistance grant would be able to.
But for a year, the plant has never managed to clear the paperwork. The Northwest Petroleum Association had CAP legally barred from forming the co-op on the grounds that it's improper for a public agency to trade commodities on the open market. CAP Director Steve Chadwick says the association is merely afraid of lower heating prices.
It's very clear in other communities where similar programs have been established that it dramatically changes the way fuel oil is priced as the program grows, because other dealers are then forced to respond to a more competitive marketplace, and in fact the entire community benefits.
Today, both sides presented their case to a panel of judges. The result should be known in about 90 days, but it could be a lot longer before any effect is felt right here. John Schottel, Channel 3 News.
Many years ago, the United States Air Force built a 110-acre housing complex for its troops based in Duluth. In the early 1980s, the University of Minnesota Duluth leased the Capehart housing project from the federal government for $1. But the future of Capehart has always been a question.
13 years I've been here every fall. Where are we going to get more housing? Where are we going to get more housing? And the thing with Capehart, who knows what it's going to be in a year?
That's a question no one can answer for sure. Since the government sold Capehart to New Hampshire businessman Thomas Crandall for $3.9 million, the future of Capehart and its 600 UMD renters is up in the air. But university officials are addressing that issue of student housing by suggesting that students move back to campus.
We plan to build, when I say dormitory spaces, we plan to build dormitory spaces that will attract upperclassmen.
This is where UMD officials believe the new dormitory will be built. It will house some 500 students and carries a $7 million price tag. But some UMD students say they won't move into the new complex.
I personally, if I was an upperclassman, I wouldn't move in the dorms. There's just too much privacy out here, and it's a lot of space for everyone.
UMD officials say Capehart is in need of repairs totaling $5 to $6 million. And one private appraiser says the housing project is worth no more than $1.4 million. But the question on the minds of many Capehart's residents is, where will they be living next year?
They better find something to do, because they're going to lose a lot of students if they don't find some housing for us.
Sam Shane, Channel 3 News.
Back in 1966, before the arena was built, many people warned city officials that the project was a mistake. A multi-purpose complex simply wouldn't make it in Duluth. 20 years later, the arena has proved them all wrong. The complex is going stronger than ever. In fact, 1986 was the best year in its history.
We had a lot of conventions, and we had the reunion, which was good for us, and we had a lot of entertainment shows. So it was a very good year for us. It was our best that we've ever had.
Officials say things look just as rosy for 1987, and a lot has to do with the way they've been handling the promotion of activities.
What we've done is taken a promotional packet that we put together, staff and myself, and what we've done is send it to all the promoters, and it gives every detail of the building and the city of Duluth in regards to promotional activities, entertainment activities.
The complex makes most of its money on concerts, but Bulldog Hockey, the biggest sports draw for the complex, has brought in money over the years also. Overall, the complex is used more than 300 days of the year. The whole city of Duluth is being invited to celebrate the arena's 20th anniversary this Thursday. The celebrating will start with free sleigh rides at 5:30. Lisa Molosky, Channel 3 News.
Hospitality hosts are a unique group of specially trained Minnesotans decked out in blue blazers and red berets. But most importantly, the youngest member of this special public relations group is 55 years old.
The Hospitality Host Project was started last January. We recruited and trained 30 senior citizens and uniformed them and got them jobs as tour guides working in tourist information areas all over the 7-county area.
When traveling through northern Minnesota, it's almost impossible not to spot members of the hospitality host group working at various locations. The members of this group say the job is much more than a supplement to their income.
It has given me more confidence in myself because I've worked with people and I've really enjoyed it. I finally got a job where I can talk as much as I want.
Besides just sitting at home and wondering what to do with ourselves, we've gotten out and met people and associated with the public, and we've had a lot of conversations with people from different countries all around the world.
Iron World, Giants Ridge, and other tourist attractions that have hired hospitality hosts to promote tourism say it would take people with master's degrees to accomplish what the hosts have done for them.
I've gotten letters from tourist attractions that have stated they know that more people came because these people sent them there, and they all know each other. So they send, someone from the North Shore sends tourists down to see their friend at the Museum of Mining. So they've had a wonderful impact.
Oftentimes, senior citizens feel discriminated against because of their age, but the hospitality hosts say these jobs were made for them, and who better to teach history than the people who lived it. In Hibbing, Katie O'Keefe, Channel 3 News.
At 4 o'clock, they gathered with their signs and their candles to hold a vigil in the snow.
We are holding our candlelight vigil in hopes of changing the hearts and minds of the people in the criminal justice system who have the authority to release Bernice Johnson to the women's shelter of the Wren House.
2 months ago, Bernice Johnson stabbed her husband in the chest while he was attacking her. He later died from the stabbing wound. She was charged with second-degree murder and is being held on $40,000 bail. Earlier today, we talked with Johnson about her stay in the St. Louis County Jail.
They won't allow me to see the doctor. The doctor don't want to see me until I've been sentenced. And that's one big thing with me. I feel I need medical attention.
Johnson's lawyer and members of the vigil say Johnson is not a dangerous criminal, and she should be placed in a halfway house or a women's shelter where she can see her children.
Running would be one of the worst things that I could ever do. It wouldn't be helping me at all. I'd be in a worse situation than I am now.
Bernice Johnson has never been out of the state. She has not even been out of this region. She's pregnant and she has 2 small children under the age of 2. And where would she go?
Bernice Johnson remains in the St. Louis County Jail tonight. No court date has been set. For the next 2 months, the case will be in pre-trial hearings. One of those hearings is tomorrow, at which time her lawyer is expected to ask for her release from jail. Sam Shane, Channel 3 News.
My children.
Bernice Johnson is being held in the St. Louis County Jail on $40,000 bail. Today, about 30 members of 2 local groups came together to let everyone know they disapprove.
We don't believe that Bernice Johnson is a threat to public safety. We believe that she certainly will show up at the appointed time at court.
2 months ago, Johnson stabbed and killed her husband while he was attacking her. She's been charged with second-degree murder. Her attorney and members of today's candlelight vigil say she belongs in a halfway house or a woman's shelter. Johnson says the St. Louis County Jail is denying her medical attention.
They won't allow me to see the doctor. The doctor don't want to see me until I've been sentenced. And that's one big thing with me. I feel I need medical attention.
Members of the Candlelight Vigil can't understand why Johnson remains under lock and key.
Bernice Johnson has never been out of the state. She has not even been out of this region. She's pregnant and she has 2 small children under the age of 2. And where would she go?
Meantime, Bernice Johnson is a bit overwhelmed by the Candlelight Vigil in the snow.
I appreciate their efforts. Because like I said before, I've never really expected this much support from anybody.
Bernice Johnson remains in the St. Louis County Jail tonight. No court date has been set. For the next 2 months, the case will be in pre-trial hearings. One of those hearings is tomorrow, at which time her lawyer is expected to ask for her release from jail. Sam Shane, Channel 3 News.